This academic poster is going to describe and investigate 6 different key influences from 1988 to present day which have had a large significance on curriculum changes. Some of these key events challenge theorists and their approach to teaching, some provide evidence as to why these theories are still relevant, and other key events go into detail about political parties at the time and their views on education and the curriculum. SATs, also known as Standard Attainment Tests. These tests were national assessments that reviewed and compared the developing knowledge and skills of children in primary school within English, mathematics and science. The SATs were not massively favoured by primary school teachers across England, who instead believed that these tests were far too stressful for children of primary school age and also stressful for themselves, as their teaching credibility may be challenged if their students do not perform well in the assessments. The SATs were considered to provide positive outcomes for both students and for schools. For children, the SATs are used as target grades in secondary school, and for schools, the SATs are used in judging a school's effectiveness. Williams 2022. As you can see, there are conflicted opinions and views about the SATs. However, ultimately, most teachers want SATs to be scrapped. The SATs also contradict the humanist approach to learning. In the humanistic approach, a teacher would allow students to learn by their own free will and desire for knowledge. Gandhi and Mukherjee 2022. However, with SATs, students are not at their own free will to learn, as they have to understand and comprehend specific knowledge which is relative to the information and understanding tested within the Standard Attainment Test. Ofsted, also known as the Office for Standards in Education, Children's Services and Skills, introduced by the Conservative government in 1992. Ofsted aimed to review the performance of schools in England, as well as measuring the success and application of the national curriculum. Ofsted reviews choose to focus on 3 components, being intent, implementation and impact. Intent was reviewing the planning of lessons and how teachers would integrate the national curriculum into their teaching, as well as their own pedagogy. Implementation involves what specific techniques and skills teachers use to deliver these lessons alongside the success of these techniques. Finally, impact is self-explanatory. It is reviewed when the curriculum is considered to have been taught, and Ofsted inspectors can review assessment results. Following this review, inspectors will rate the score against a 4-point scale. The scale goes from grade 4, inadequate, grade 3, requires improvement, grade 2, good, and grade 1, outstanding, Ofsted 2009. The concept of Ofsted contradicts the child learning approach such as that of Piaget 1936, as it does not perceive students as individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses, and instead chooses to review a year group/key stage as a whole and their achievements. Prior to Ofsted being introduced in 1992, schools were being inspected by Her Majesty's inspectors. However, there was still concerns surrounding the idea that these inspectors had biased opinions, and therefore schools were not inspected thoroughly. Every Child Matters, the government initiative enforced by the Children Act of 2004, was introduced following the tragic death of Victoria Climbié, who was abused by her aunt and eventually died from her injuries. Every Child Matters placed a large responsibility on parents to work alongside the schools to ensure that their children's needs were being met and that they were safe and maintain holistic health. Furthermore, this initiative supports Maslow's hierarchy of needs 1943 by ensuring that the child's focal needs, such as physiological needs as well as the need for love and belonging, were met in order for them to reach their full potential by self-actualizing and therefore achieving more in their lives in school as well as outside of it. The aim of this legislation was to improve the overall care and support that children were able to receive. There are 5 main principles to Every Child Matters. Number 1 being that every child should be safe, meaning be protected from abuse, harm or neglect in any environment they may find themselves in. The next principle is that every child should be healthy, and this doesn't just cover physical health, but children should be healthy holistically. The third principle is that they should achieve good things. Each and every individual child should receive personalised care that allows them to self-actualise and reach their full potential. Number 4 is making a positive contribution to society, including encouraging others to do well, showing respect and manners, listening to people and empathising with them. Finally, all children should be able to achieve and maintain economic comfort. Whether a child has grown up in poverty or from a wealthy family, they deserve to be financially comfortable as they grow up. Ultimately, Every Child Matters was implemented in order to ensure that every child was safe and healthy so that it could be successful and happy. The Rose Review is an independent review carried out by Sir Jim Rose in 2006. Sir Jim Rose was the former HMI Director of Inspection at Ofsted. Following on from this, being the Director of Inspection allowed Rose to gain the knowledge and information he needed in order to carry out his review and propose the Rose Curriculum Figure 2, which he sought to replace the National Curriculum 1988 being used in schools. The Rose Review of the primary curriculum proposed a slimmer, clearer, formal curriculum which offered teachers a space to think afresh. Tide 2010. As described here, the Rose curriculum wasn't created just for the benefit of pupils and their outcomes, but for the teachers as well. Teachers have a lot of work and stress when it comes to teaching the current national curriculum, and this new refined and reformed curriculum gave teachers the opportunity to reevaluate the pedagogy and what works best to enforce this Rose curriculum. The Rose curriculum supports a humanist approach to learning, as it allows children to develop personally and learn valuable life skills prior to any subject knowledge they may be required to learn. Referring back to Figure 1, we can see that things such as personal development, literacy, mathematics and ICT are essentials for learning and life, are critical skills needed to produce successful learners, responsible citizens and also confident individuals. The new and improved national curriculum, in order to reinforce the standards expected by the government following the previous curriculum in 1988, the national curriculum proposes a framework of learning including core subjects that students are expected to have knowledge within and are measured against their peers in order to see how much of the curriculum they have learned. Other education providers such as academies do not have to follow the national curriculum and can teach what subjects they feel are the most appropriate. Introduced by the coalition government, Conservative and Liberal Democrats, it was found that the national curriculum has been effective in raising standards, improving pupil progression, and has led to higher expectations for young people. BBC 2010. This isn't reflective of the general Conservative view, which wants stripped back national curriculum, giving schools more flexibility over what they teach. Curtis 2009. Ultimately, the new and improved curriculum is designed to improve outcomes for students, as well as raise the expectations for all students in England, who the coalition government believed would have improved progression through this newly implemented curriculum. Children within the social care system, including those who have just left, are some of the most vulnerable individuals who may not have equal access to education or equal opportunities. The Children and Social Work Act is intended to improve the support for looked after children and care leavers and promote the welfare of safeguarding children, LGA 2017. This piece of legislation is extremely important in relation in relation to education, as sometimes these individuals can get lost in the education system and their needs aren't prioritised as much as they should be. Under this Act, local authorities will be required to promote the educational attainment of children who have been adopted or placed in other long-term arrangements, LGA 2017. When children have been adopted or placed in long-term arrangements, their adoptive families or other social services will support and encourage them to continually focus on their education and work to achieve their best. However, when these children leave the services and possibly return back to their families, they may lose this encouragement, and therefore their educational attainment may not be as good and their outcomes will not be as successful as they could have been if the support and encouragement they received previously had continued. To conclude, this academic poster has gone into detail about 6 key influences of curriculum changes since 1988. However, there have been many more, and there is almost certainly more curriculum changes to come. In my opinion, if there was an updated curriculum, I would hope that it had more focus on mental health and life skills following the COVID-19 pandemic, as this revealed just how serious of a problem mental health is becoming to extremely young individuals.